Hello, my Italian food fanatics. Today, we're going to make an authentic Italian tomato sauce. It's going to be a very generic tomato sauce that you can use with eggplant parmigiana or with meatballs or with literally anything that you desire. You can even put it on pasta and eat it just plain like that, all right? It's going to be absolutely delicious. It's going to be something that you can go to time and time again and use as a very generic sauce. So without wasting any more time, let's get into the kitchen and let's make this thing. But hold on, before I do that, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up if you like the video, click the subscribe button, click the little bell button that reminds you or gives you a notice when I release a video, which is literally every day of the week, almost every day. I don't do it on the weekends. Sometimes when my schedule doesn't allow, I don't, but literally every single day, 5 days a week, I release something. So without any further ado, let's get in the kitchen and make this thing. All right, my Italian food fanatics, let's get started. Today we're going to make a very generic, very Italian tomato sauce to be used with all kinds of different items such as eggplant parmigiana or meatballs. It's very, very versatile, and it is super Italian. It's about as Italian as it gets. We'll start with some olive oil. Now, you know me, I'm from Southern California, and I love using 100% California olive oil. So we'll use some of that. We'll use a little bit of basil, okay, literally 3, 4, 5 leaves of basil, and that's it, all right? A couple of cloves of garlic, which we're going to leave whole, and then the tomato product. I have a tomato puree or passata, and then, of course, some cherry tomatoes as well. Since it's wintertime, my tomatoes in the garden are not ready, and so these are jarred and canned at the peak of their freshness, so they should be just fine to use in here. These are the Mutti brand. Mutti, that I know of, is a Bavarian dialect for the name mother. Hello, Mutti. That's at least what I know of the word Mutti, because I have friends that live in Bavaria, and that's what they call their mothers. Instead of mama or whatever, they call her Mutti. So these are the cherry tomatoes and, of course, Roma tomatoes that have been made into a passata. All right? So that's that. Now let's get into the preparation. Let's start with the garlic. If you know anything about me, you know that I'm a proponent of using not peeled garlic already, and, of course, not the chopped one. You just press down on the garlic clove like that, give it a couple of twists, and the paper or the shirt or the camicia should come off as easy as that. All right? And let's do it with this one so that you can see again. That's pretty simple. And the peeling of the garlic is done in just a matter of seconds. All right? And then these are going to go into the pan or the pot, our sauce pot here. First, a little bit of olive oil. Not too much, about that much. We'll put a couple of the cloves of garlic and all of our basil. I know this is a little bit strange, but believe it or not, it doesn't get more Italian than this. And now we go on to the flame. Be back in a second. Okay. The sauce pot is on the stove. I'll turn on the heat. We're going to go at a very high heat, and we're going to go for a couple of minutes. So long as this does not burn. All right, remember, especially with the Italians, you do not want to burn the garlic, and you do not want to even come close to burning or getting the garlic brown. It just must heat up. And so that's what we're going to do here. In the meantime, while all this is happening, while this is on the stove and on the heat like this, you should be opening up your tomato product. And so now we're on the heat. I've turned the heat up pretty high as it can go. And you can hear that the garlic and the basil are sizzling away a little bit. I've also opened up the tomato products because what we're going to do when this starts to sizzle in a couple of minutes is add our tomato product right off the bat. All right? We want this to sizzle a little bit in here, and for the oils, not only from the garlic, but also from the basil, to really infuse the oil well. All right? Now remember, we don't want this garlic or the basil to burn or anything like that. All right? So we have to be very cognizant of that. And that's why this part of the process requires your serious attention. All right? So you can see that the garlic cloves are in there, and at even the first sign of them browning or anything like that, we are going to add our tomato product. All right? And remember, this is all on high heat, extremely high heat. Okay? So I probably am going to fast forward this portion because you don't really need to see this unless you want to. Okay, so it's been a couple of minutes, and now we're ready to add our tomato product. And there's a nice sizzle there. Not a tremendous sizzle, but a nice one, which is exactly what we're looking for. We don't want it to be too austere. And we add our cherry tomatoes in there. I'm going to put a little bit of water inside of the passata jar, shake it around a little bit, and then add it in there too. All right, this allows our sauce to be able to reduce down, even though we are not going to, and then this is the can, we're not going to be cooking it for very long. All right, remember what I said, this is seriously Italian. It doesn't get more Italian than this. So what will happen is we still have it on a high flame, and we will cook it. When it comes to the boil, we will cook it for about 30 minutes, and that's it. That's how simple, that's how easy, that's how convenient all of this is. And you can do it in the wintertime, you can do it in the summertime, you can do whatever. It's better with vine-ripened tomatoes, with passata that you make yourself, and also your own cherry tomatoes. And I'm going to make this version again this summer, probably in August. It's now, for me, it's in February. I'm going to make this version again in August when my tomatoes are ready. So it'll be a different product for sure. But it's not to say that you can't enjoy this even in the wintertime, because these tomatoes, as I mentioned earlier, have been canned at the peak of their freshness as well. And Mutti is a very, very good brand. So we'll let this come up to temperature and we'll be back. In the meantime, while this is coming to the boil, it's almost to the boil, we will remove the garlic. Okay? You have to fish around a little bit for it, but eventually, there's the other clove. You will find it and discard it. Now, you have no fear of crushing the cherry tomatoes because you think that you may be crushing a garlic clove. So you can press up against the pan or the pot just like that and break up the cherry tomatoes. And what this is going to do, it's going to get the seeds, because the cherry tomatoes are whole. They're canned at the peak of freshness. It's going to get the seeds in there as well, and that's okay. That's not such a big deal. Believe it or not, the center of the tomato, not the skin and not the flesh, the center where the juice is and the seeds are, is the most flavorful part of the tomato. Most people don't know that. But this was brought to light by one of the greatest chefs since Escoffier, and that's Ferran Adrià. Since Escoffier, and also, of course, the legendary Paul Bocuse, one of the nicest people that I have ever met in my life. For the level that he was when I met him as a student at the Culinary Institute of America, he was such a nice man. And he could have been extremely arrogant and off-putting, but he was exactly the opposite, and I'll never forget how nice he was to me. I love him for it, and unfortunately he's passed away now. But he was another seminal chef in the culinary world, responsible, what they say, for Nouvelle Cuisine, which he completely denies. I don't know if that, he said it was just a continuation of the way cuisine was going to go. Anyway, so we're crushing the tomatoes, and then, of course, like I said, Ferran Adrià, in his restaurant, which is no longer around, called El Bulli, would serve just the seeds and the center juice of the tomato. He would take everything else away because he found out from trial and error that that was the most flavorful and best part of the tomato. So when we have seeds and juice here, it's not a bad thing, no matter what anyone tells you. In fact, the classical French way of doing it is by removing the seeds and the skin and just using the flesh in what is known as a tomato concassé. And that's still used today, there's no doubt about it, for something more refined, quote unquote. But in this case, we know that the center with the juice and everything like that is a sweeter and the sweetest and the best part, so we're going to keep that in here. That's more in keeping with Italian tradition. Do as little to the best food as you possibly can, leave it the way that it is, and serve it. All right, so now we've come to a boil. We are going to turn this down to a simmer, and we're going to leave it slowly simmering and bubbling for about a half an hour, and we'll be back. All right, my Italian food fanatics, I just wanted to show you that we have the tomato sauce here on a simmer. That's the way that it should look. It's just slowly bubbling away, and we're almost done with the half an hour. We have a few more minutes to go, and I'll be back. All right, my Italian food fanatics, this is just an update. We're almost done with the cooking, and I'd like you to see the way that the sauce should look as it slowly bubbles away. All right, that's exactly what you're looking for. See you in a couple of minutes. All right, my Italian food fanatics, the half an hour is up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fish out this basil. All right. That's a cherry tomato. There's another piece of basil. And there aren't much basil. We only put like 5 leaves in there. There's the fourth one. And somewhere around here, and it's okay if we don't find this last one. I don't want to bore you with going through this. But what we're going to do is I'm going to take this and we're going to put it in a small bowl, and we're going to give it a taste for you. So let's plate that up, as it were, and we'll go for the tasting. See you in a couple of seconds, but it's done. All right, my Italian food fanatics, you saw the finished sauce. You know everything about it that you need to know now. And you saw me put it in this little bowl. So we're going to give it a taste, all right? Now, remember what I said. This is a generic tomato sauce, all right? So guess what it's supposed to taste like? That's right. It's supposed to taste like tomatoes. And indeed it does. It's actually quite good. The sweetness of the cherry tomatoes and the regular tomatoes that were canned and jarred at their peak of freshness is apparent in there. Don't need to add any sugar or anything like that. They are perfect, the tomatoes. So there's a little bit of hint of garlic in there. You can taste a little bit of basil, of course, which is in the background, which is the way it's supposed to be in an authentic Italian tomato sauce that is generic and can be used for anything. Now, you notice that I didn't add any salt. And the reason for that is because if we use it with a pasta and we add pasta water into it, it's going to make it salty. If it reduces down, it's going to become even more salty. And so, again, like stock, we have kept this really, really generic. Now, I do have a little bit of salt right here. I'm going to place a little bit of it inside of this sauce, mix it around a little bit more, and adjust the final seasoning, all right? Which is the way I think you should do it, to be completely honest. Don't over salt, because when you over salt, you can always add salt, but you really can't take salt away unless you're going to add liquid or something else. And what we want is a concentrated, really tomatoey flavor. Wow, boy, does that pop. Try it yourself. When you make pasta, try the pasta without adding cheese. Try it with just the sauce and see what you get, because cheese has a way of hiding the flavor of sauces. Also with this, try it without the salt, add a little bit of salt, then try it with the salt and see the different changes in the flavor of the sauce. And then you'll know how much you need to add, how much you can take back. You're always adjusting and stuff like that. I know that a lot of times, maybe seemingly, I don't add enough seasoning, but I do that on purpose, all right? You can also add a little bit of pepper in here. You can add pepper flakes, which I didn't do. Why? Again, because it's a generic sauce that should taste 95% like tomatoes, and it does, with the hint of a little bit of garlic, a little bit of basil, and of course the olive oil in there too. This is about as genuinely authentic Italian as it gets. So there you go. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you so choose. And hopefully one of these days, you and I will get a chance to meet in person, face to face, mano y femino, whatever, ladies, gentlemen, what have you. Have a great day. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your attention. I appreciate you watching the video.